Hello and welcome. We'll wait a few more minutes to fully get started. We'll start right at the top of the hour, but glad to have you all join us and excited to share some more information about NCAF. Okay, we're right at 12 o'clock Central, so we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining us today for our Prospective member webinar for 2023. My name is Jen Kafesnica, and I am the manager of the NCAF program here at NCHL. Joining me today are Dr. Chris Lewis and Allie Cruiser. I said that right, hopefully. Dr. Lewis is the Clinical Associate Professor with Boston University School of Public Health and serves as the NCAF Steering Chair as well. Allie will join us on Steering Committee in 2023, and she is the Director of Primary Care Practices at Samaritan Health Services. She works closely with the fellowship program there and is also a former fellow. So lots of insight and opportunity there. So as we get started today, just wanted to give an overview of kind of what we're looking at to discuss. We'll talk a bit about the National Center for Healthcare Leadership, and then we'll move on to NCAF, which is a program under that, looking at the structure, the benefits, the value of being a part of this membership. And then we'll have some time at the end for Ellie and Chris to give us some feedback and some of their insights as current members. As an overview, NCHL is a nonprofit that promotes both the best practice sharing as well as evidence-based leadership styles and practices within the healthcare space. So really looking at advancing those opportunities and building relationships across the healthcare space. NCHL does champion and work to produce 3 premier membership programs, those of which are the LENS Network, which is the Leadership Excellence Network, the U.S. Cooperative for International Patient Programs, and NCAF, the National Council on Administrative Fellowships. Each of these programs works with diverse populations in order to meet the needs of the folks involved and help educate and research to meet those end goals. Looking at NCAF specifically, NCAF was started in October of 2014 and currently made up of 121 members, some of our highest and most membership growth in the last couple of years. The members are working to continuously improve opportunities for early careerists, whether that be students, fellows, graduate program faculty, and fellowship sites as well. So working with all of those populations to bring about more opportunities for the early careerists that we see entering the healthcare space. We do have, of those 121 members, we do have 37 graduate programs, those of which receive a slightly different set of benefits than the fellowship side. But like I said, 37 programs, and several of which Dr. Lewis is a part of steering, and several others are as well. And the fellowship site members, we have right around 80 participating in NCAF, and then we have 72 this year specifically that participated in 2022 recruitment, and that recruitment ran from June to October. So variety of academic medical centers, larger health systems, regional hospitals, different opportunities for students to pursue as we look at NAFCAS. So the Code of Good Practice is one of the kind of the biggest benefits of being a part of NCAF, and knowing that your peers and your colleagues are following and agreeing to support this practice. And the code outlines not only professionalism for all parties involved and making sure everyone is reacting in a timely manner, but it outlines the dates for opening and closing the cycle, as well as a standard offer period for applicants. So typically, and I say typically because things are always changing, always evolving, but our application cycle this year opened in June and closed in October. We had an offer period right after that October deadline that ran through the second Thursday in November. So students had the opportunity to receive offers during that time. They could hold an offer if they chose to, but they did have to accept by the acceptance date, which was the second Thursday in November this year. So a lot of time for students to be able to hold that offer and have those interviews and conversations, but making sure that everyone's kind of unified around this acceptance date and the cycle year over year. And like I mentioned, we're constantly collecting feedback from our members and trying to enhance this document, the Code of Good Practice, year over year to help provide the best recruitment strategies and practices, not only for the student perspective, but also for the fellowship sites that are working as recruiters in this extremely busy time trying to find the right students that fit their organization. Looking a bit more at the structure of NCAF itself, NCAF is structured around a centralized steering committee with 2 work groups to support the work of both fellowship sites, graduate programs, students, fellows. And each of the work groups focuses on an important initiative to the overall landscape of healthcare administration and administrative fellowships as we work to develop early careerists. So that steering committee really oversees all of the work that goes on in the work groups, as well as giving input on the Code of Good Practice, making sure that we're driving NCAF initiatives in the way that we need to and should be. The Emerging Leaders Group, made up typically of former and current fellows, but also includes graduate program faculty that are passionate about networking opportunities and educational offerings for graduate students, fellows, even post fellows as they go into that first career that they have after their fellowship. Some of the things that we've developed out of that group, we've had the Read to Lead virtual reading clubs, where everyone will join the Zoom and talk about a specific article. We typically have fellows read those in an effort to get them comfortable with leading and discussing different topics within healthcare. This last summer, we had the Summer Enrichment Series, was 6 sessions across months of June and July, and had a lot of really great conversations with students and fellows with a variety of panels related to DE&I. We talked about fellowship placements and interviews, how to best prepare for those, and even healthcare opportunities that are maybe not so traditional, thinking about the consulting and analytics side of the healthcare space. And then our last work group that we have is the Benchmarking, Metrics, and Research work group. And this work group really drives the work of our annual benchmarking surveys. So we typically do 4 surveys each year. We survey administrative fellowship sites, current fellows, graduate programs in healthcare management, students and applicants. And those go out typically in the January to April timeframe to collect that research on, are students interested in fellowship sites? What other opportunities are they pursuing? And looking at how many interviews did it take to land the job, or what's the placement rate? And looking at the percentage of students that are utilizing NAFCAS and the satisfaction that runs with that. So we conduct those surveys, and then we this year we're able to create dashboards to reflect that, as well as an executive summary to kind of show the story of what the landscape looks like, at least for the 2022 recruitment cycle. And then year over year, we'll expand that research. And this group really works to enhance that data and works to drive that initiative. We have graduate program member benefits and fellowship site benefits. On the screen, you'll see our standard level and our council level, which are two different price ranges. Similar benefits until you get towards the bottom, but access to the steering committee, like the benchmarking data that I had mentioned, is only for NCAF members. Graduate program members do receive 2 fee waivers to subsidize the application fees for their students. So many of our graduate programs do a lottery system or look at financial need to provide those to their students. And then we have those virtual networking and educational opportunities that I mentioned the Emerging Leaders Group helps develop. Participating in our work groups, and then we provide a discounted ticket for the NCHL All-Member Conference, typically an event that all of our members across NCHL participate in and hear about leadership development and pipeline growth and a lot of the topics that we talk about year-round, but in a more concentrated amount of time at our conference. On the other side, you'll see the council level, and beyond the items that I mentioned, instead of 2 fee waivers, you get 4. You have a complimentary ticket to the NCHL All-Member Conference, but we also have these 2 new benefits for 2023. The Joint Academia Industry discussion is really focused on providing a bridge for academia to industry to understand, are students prepared? Are they coming out of our programs and prepared for the next step in the workforce? Are there certain trainings that we should be providing? Are there certain changes to curriculum that we should be providing in order to create the best early careerist experience that we can to not only recruit, but maintain early careers in the organization? Similar to that, we'll have 2 events or 2 meetings, one in person at our NCHL conference to continue those connections and those partnerships in person, but we'll also have a collaborative event that'll be virtual on the same note. So talking about a lot of those same topics and thinking about DE&I and pipeline and talent management and looking at diverse alumni within the healthcare space for graduate programs. For the fellowship side of things, very similar offerings in terms of benefits. You'll see the one difference on the standard level is that access to recruitment of fellows. We do offer that as an option to recruit your fellows, not only beyond the code of good practice, but help standardize the way that our organizations are recruiting their fellows. We also have quarterly calls for administrative fellowship sites. So those will be new in 2023 that'll offer the opportunity to share best practices and think about what could I be doing better to improve my program? Or how do I recruit international students? That's something I'm interested in. Or what marketing tools are different organizations using that I've never thought of? To name a few of the topics that have come up over the year. Beyond those quarterly calls, we'll also have an annual call for the fellows to be able to connect not only with the fellows in their region, but across the country and be able to share kind of the grievances of being a fellow or the positives of the projects that they're working on and commiserate together, which though it would be virtual, still an opportunity for them to branch out and network with others in the healthcare space. And on the flip side, for the council level, you'll see that complimentary ticket to the conference again. You still have those quarterly and annual calls. And then, like I had mentioned before, those joint academia to industry conversations, be virtual or the in-person meeting. So that's what we're kind of looking at in terms of of benefits for each of the specific membership categories, but we also have membership benefits that kind of span across both parties and across NCHL. Thinking about the NCAF newsletter that we send out bi-monthly, includes updates on new members that are participating in NAFCAS for the current cycle, or different white papers that come out, or webinars that are coming up, all the news and events that you would need to know as an NCAF member. National visibility, recognition, and promotion across the country. Students are using NAFCAS to find and search for their fellowship opportunities. So having the opportunity to display your program as a fellowship site to, hundreds of students each year is definitely beneficial. And also having the member-only discussion forums through our member board. Our member portal provides the opportunity to post questions asynchronously. So, graduate programs, what are your placement rates for this year? Or are students' interest lower than last year? Or, are students accepting more fellowships than previous years? All those conversations that go on kind of behind the scenes as we, continue to recruit and improve the early careerist pipeline and their opportunities. Thinking about the NCHL cross-member benefits, we have a job board that's for our members, and it's free to post on as an NCHL program member. And we have access to the NCHL competency model, which many of the graduate programs utilize in their programs and as they build out their curriculum. We have the opportunity for you to participate in the National Health Leadership Survey, which is BOLD, the best organizations in leadership development, and that happens every other year. And you receive a scorecard, and the opportunity to participate that kind of puts your organization above the rest if you're excelling in one of the categories that they're measuring. Access to the NCHL mentorship program that typically happens March through November. And then we have any access to white papers or other research and things like that normally wouldn't be available to the public. We have discounted member rates and different items that are free, specifically also thinking about the benchmarking. And lastly, the opportunity to attend the NCHL coffee chats, virtual learnings, webinars, different opportunities. We typically hold quarterly coffee chats, and they can range on anything from conscious inclusion to pipeline development, anything in the healthcare space that's more leadership development focused. We partner with a lot of organizations that are great about thought leadership and providing our members insight and direction through different virtual learning engagements. Last thing I want to share before we have Allie and Dr. Lewis talk a bit about their experiences in the program, but this is an example of one of the dashboards that we were able to complete this year, and this is our publicly available dashboard, which is different than what is available internally. The data on this dashboard comprises all 4 surveys, as well as the qualitative feedback that you see there. Typically, dashboards are created for each respondent group and then paired with an executive summary. So you can see the full picture of that administrative fellowship landscape. Can scan to learn more about NCHL and then see the different satisfaction rates, the different percentages of time spent, and fellows hired on post-fellowship, those sorts of things. So just something to give you a visual to be able to see what the benchmarking would look like. So I will hand it over to our current members. I have a couple predetermined questions, and then if you all want to give any more context or thoughts around it, happy to do that. But I think I'll start with Allie, if that's okay. Wondering, why did you join, or why did Samaritan Health Services join NCAF?
Yeah, so this actually goes back a few years. I did my administrative fellowship in the 2017-2018 year, and I was the second individual to go through our program. And when I got here, I realized there wasn't much structure around it. So a lot of my year went into researching best practices. How are these different fellowship programs designed and how are they implemented? And during that research, I actually had come across a guide that NCAF had published on how to implement administrative fellowship. So I loved reading that article. It gave us a lot of structure and a lot of place to start. And in that, we learned about NAFCAS. So I kind of pitched the proposal to our executive team. They were very interested. We started using the NAFCAS process and joined the following year. And we've been very thrilled to be a part of it since then. I think there's been lots of benefits.
Thanks, Ellie.
Shall I jump in here, Jen? Would that be okay?
Absolutely.
Allie, thanks again for your participation on this call as well, and Jen, thanks for hosting. Fundamentally, I believe in the fellowship experience, and our organization at the Boston University School of Public Health does as well. It's really a unique opportunity for students, and when we had the opportunity to decide whether we were going to participate and open up the door for our students into these fellowships, it really was a no-brainer. We wanted them to have all the opportunities that if they wanted to take them, to apply for fellowships, to be part of these experiences, and to launch a career in healthcare leadership or healthcare administration that went in the direction that they wanted to. I have a unique vantage point in that I have been a fellow, having come out of a graduate program some almost 20 years ago now, but having hired fellows, and then also having mentored them through the process and getting their positions and seeing just how excited they are as they transition into these fellowship roles and then ultimately into management roles and senior executive roles beyond that. It's been just a really great opportunity to see the multiple perspectives, and our organization has been very supportive at Boston University, and I see that continuing.
Thanks, Chris. For either one of you, whoever wants to go first, what are the most valuable aspects of the NCAF membership for your organization? I can sit here and talk all day about how great the program is, but it's nice to hear from you all from your perspective of what you find valuable within the program.
Go ahead, Allie.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so I'll jump in. I think there's tons of benefits. One of them that was already touched on the slides is just how much being a part of this has helped with our national visibility. It's also helped so much having the code of good practice that we lean on heavily every year. And I think some of the executive surveys and benchmarking data that comes out is very, very helpful. So it allows our health system to make sure that we're aligned with others. It helps us stay competitive. And it always kind of helps us continue to improve the program as well, right? So hearing what others are doing. And I think there's lots of great things coming in the future too. I'm excited for more increased collaboration amongst the fellowship sites, and also, like you touched on, to give the administrative fellows the opportunity to connect with others in a shared experience, because oftentimes you're an N of one or a few, and I think it'll be really helpful for individuals to be able to connect and share some of those experiences. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, those are all great points. And when I think about this from the graduate program perspective, what I want for my students is ease of understanding what's out there as they prepare for the job market and as they're trying to understand, well, which path do I want to go? And I think that NCAF and specifically having the access to the NAFCAS, the fellowship sites on NAFCAS, gives the students a really easy way to see what location, if I want to be in a certain region of the country, if I want to be at a certain type of health system, it gives them the ease of access to do that. So for me, it's a really, it's a one-stop place where they can go and find all these things that I think is really helpful. The engagement and discussion with current fellows, I think, is just exacerbated by having this, the resources available to them through the discussion boards or through the myriad of different types of opportunities, whether it's the coffee chats or other things. I think is really helpful in building community. So those are all the things that I point to, and just kind of building community around this experience and around what happens afterward.
Thanks, Chris. Next question is for Allie specifically, because you're utilizing NAFCAS from the fellowship side. of things, wondering what the most valuable aspect of that specific centralized application service is. What do you find most valuable about it?
Yeah, I think one of the big things for us, again, is just having that national visibility. But I also think it's a great location for us to share important information, such as when we're going to host our webinars every year and make sure that that information is getting to all the right sources. But we've also just found that it's so easy to help us communicate en masse with individuals and simplify the process. So it really does help streamline things.
Thanks, Allie. Chris, I'm wondering if you could touch a bit on, since Allie will be joining our steering next year, so she's just getting her feet wet, but wondering if you could touch a bit on the benefit of the steering committee and kind of the outcomes that come from that.
Yeah, so I have been part of multiple committees over the years. I started on the long-term planning and subcommittee, and I think that went for several years before the redesign of some of the committees over the last year or 18 months, and ultimately started serving on the steering committee about a year ago. Took over as chair just recently. And so I've seen a lot of discussions between the fellowship sites and between the programs that I think have been really helpful in advancing, just the purpose of what we're doing here and the evolution of the code of good practice and the evolution of the specific, strategic initiatives that we're doing. And I feel like you leave those meetings understanding what the current issues are, what are the trends in the data, what are the volume numbers in terms of the applications and where students are going and where they're applying. You understand all of those things a little bit better so you can help, advise and give insight into what should NCAF or what should the NCHL board and leadership be thinking about. And so I believe that bringing these groups of people together, both the users and the people who are trying to provide the experience for the students in the fellowships, I think is really helpful. So I appreciate the collegial, and frankly, I'm a pracademic, so I was in the industry for 10 years. So it gives me the opportunity to interface with people that are doing the work. And I really enjoy that as well.
Thanks, Chris. Any other comments from either of you, whether it be on NCAF or NCHL or anything like that?
Just that I guess I'm open to, if anybody wants to speak offline about this, I'm happy to give more feedback about our personal experience and answer any additional questions.
And same here. I think I've really enjoyed my participation on all the different committees, and I'm looking forward to the following year as we continue to evolve and continue to find ways to make this process open and accessible for the students, because that's, at the end of the day, that's what I really care about, and getting them into those experiences where they can start their career, launch their career in a direction that they think is personally meaningful. And I think the fellowship is a great way to do it.
Thank you to you both for answering my questions and being on today's webinar. I will leave a few minutes now. We're gonna probably end a little bit early, but for any questions that you all have, you can enter via the chat. Happy to either give them to Allie or Chris to answer, or for myself.
I think you've said it all, Jen.
Hearing and seeing none, yeah. We'll go ahead and end a little bit early today, but if you have additional questions, do not hesitate to reach out. I will also share, if it's okay with both of you, your email addresses in the follow-up communication from this today. But thank you to you both again for joining. I appreciate your insight and collaboration.
Thank you so much for having us, and I'm excited to work more with you both in the future.
Chris.
Likewise. Have a good weekend, everyone.
Take care.